The first time I saw one, I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. It was the middle of the night, the kind of deep quiet that makes every sound inside a house feel louder than it should. The clock on the wall ticked slowly. The refrigerator hummed faintly down the hallway, and somewhere outside, a single dog barked once before everything fell silent again. I woke up suddenly. No noise had woken me. No nightmare had pulled me out of sleep. Just that strange feeling. The one that makes the back of your neck prickle like someone is standing too close behind you. My bedroom was dark except for a faint strip of moonlight leaking through the blinds. Most of the room was shadows, normal shadows. The dresser, the chair in the corner, the open closet door. But something near the doorway looked wrong. At first it was just a darker patch against the wall, a shape where no shadow should be. I blinked, rubbed my eyes, looked again. The shape was still there, tall, thin, standing perfectly still in the hallway outside my bedroom. It wasn't solid, not exactly, more like a silhouette cut out of the darkness itself, a person-shaped hole in the air. I pushed myself up slightly in the bed. "Hello?" My voice sounded weak in the quiet house. The figure didn't move, didn't breathe, didn't make a sound. For a moment I convinced myself it was just the hallway shadows playing tricks on my tired eyes. Then it moved, not much, just a slow shift of its head, as if it had turned to look directly at me. And in that instant, I realized something that made my stomach drop. That wasn't a shadow, because shadows don't move on their own. And they definitely don't watch you. For a few seconds I didn't move. I just stared at the doorway. The shape was still there, tall, narrow, darker than the darkness around it. The kind of darkness that didn't belong to anything in the room. My brain tried to solve it the way brains do. Maybe it was the coat rack in the hallway, maybe a trick of moonlight. Maybe my eyes hadn't fully adjusted after waking up, but none of those explanations fit, because the thing in the doorway was standing where nothing in the house had ever stood before. And I knew the exact moment when the fear started creeping in. It was when I realized the shadow had edges, not blurry edges like normal shadows, sharp ones, defined, like a silhouette cut from black paper and placed in the hallway. I swallowed and reached slowly toward the beside lamp. The switch was right there. One click and the hallway would flood with light. Whatever that shape was, the light would explain it. My fingers touched the lamp, and that's when the shadow moved again. Not fast, not dramatic, just a subtle shift forward. One step. The movement was smooth, so smooth it almost didn't look like walking, more like the darkness itself sliding across the floor. My hand froze on the lamp switch. My head started pounding harder than it should have, because now the figure wasn't standing in the hallway anymore. Now it was standing in the doorway, between me and the rest of the house. The moonlight from the window behind me stretched across the floor and stopped just short of its feet. And that's when I noticed something that made my chest tighten. The shadow didn't cast a shadow, it absorbed the light. Where the moonlight touched its body, the light simply disappeared, like it was falling into a hole. I sat there completely still, staring at the figure while my brain tried desperately to make sense of what I was seeing. Maybe I was dreaming. Maybe this was sleep paralysis. I'd heard about it before, people waking up and seeing things in their rooms that weren't really there, except I could move. I shifted slightly in the bed. My fingers tightened around the lamp switch. The mattress creaked under my weight. The shadow reacted instantly, its head tilted again, not like a curious person, more like a predator noticing movement. That slow tilt made something deep in my gut twist with dread. because the shape of the head wasn't right, too narrow, too smooth. No visible features, no eyes, no mouth, just a human outline filled with perfect darkness. And yet I knew with absolute certainty that it was looking directly at me. I tried to breathe slowly, telling myself to turn on the light, just flip the switch, just do it. But something stopped me, not physically, instinctively. The same instinct that tells you not to step into deep water where when you can't see the bottom, because deep down, some primitive part of my brain was screaming a warning. If I turned on the light, it might still be there, and if it was, then whatever stood in my doorway wasn't a trick of the dark. It was something that belonged inside it. The shadow shifted again, another slow step into the room. The floorboards didn't creak, the air didn't move, it didn't breathe. It simply slid forward until the moonlight touched its legs and vanished. That's when the temperature in the room dropped, not a little, suddenly, the kind of cold that makes your skin tighten and your breath catch in your throat. My hand trembled on the lamp switch. I finally forced myself to speak. "Who's there?" The words barely left my mouth. The shadow stopped moving. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then something impossible occurred. The darkness inside the shape shifted, like smoke swirling in a glass jar, and slowly, very slowly, the head leaned closer toward the bed, toward me, close enough that the moonlight should have revealed something, anything. But there was nothing to reveal, just the deepest black I'd ever seen. And then I heard a sound, not from the hallway, not from the room, from inside my head. A whisper, soft, cold, right behind my thoughts. One sentence, 4 words. "You can see us." The words didn't echo in the room. They didn't come from the hallway. They didn't even sound like a voice. They appeared in my mind the way a memory does, clear, quiet, and impossible to ignore. "You can see us." My heart slammed so hard I thought the shadow might hear it. I jerked upright in the bed. What? The word died in my throat because the figure in the room hadn't moved, not physically, but something about it had changed. The darkness inside its body was shifting now. Slow currents of black moving like smoke trapped in human shape, and then something even worse happened. I realized the whisper hadn't said "I," it said "us." A cold wave moved through my stomach. Slowly, carefully, I turned my head toward the hallway. The house was silent, but the darkness there looked thicker than it had before. And then another shadow stepped into view. This one was shorter, standing just behind the first figure. Its shape slid into existence like someone drawing it into the air with black ink. My breathing became shallow because the second one hadn't walked there. It had simply appeared. A few seconds passed, then a third, this one farther down the hallway, tall, broad shoulders, long arms hanging too low at its sides. Now 3 figures stood in the doorway and hall, completely silent, completely still, watching. The room suddenly felt much smaller. My eyes darted to the lamp again. My hand tightened around the switch. One click, light, problem solved. Except the whisper came again, not louder, but closer. "Don't." My hand froze. A chill spread across my scalp because the voice wasn't inside my head anymore. It was right behind me. I turned slowly toward the wall beside my bed. The moonlight stretched across it. And on that wall, I saw another shadow, one that hadn't been there before. It was standing beside the bed, close enough that its outline stretched across my pillow. But the worst part wasn't the shape. It was the fact that nothing in the room could have caused it. There was no object there, no person, no light source behind it, just the outline of something tall, standing inches from me. My chest tightened as realization spread slowly through my mind. The ones in the doorway weren't the only ones in the room. One of them had already come inside. My breathing became quick, shallow. I could feel the cold now, not the chill of a draft, the cold of something standing too close. My skin prickled like static electricity crawling across it, and then the shadow beside the bed began to lean forward, slowly, gradually, until its head moved directly over mine. I couldn't see its face. There was nothing to see, just darkness, but the whisper came again, right against my ear. Most people can't. My entire body went rigid because the voice sounded curious, almost fascinated. Most people never notice. Another pause, then a final sentence that made every instinct in my body scream. But you woke up while we were here. The moment the whisper ended, the room fell into a silence so heavy it felt like pressure in my ears. I didn't move, I barely breathed, but because the thing standing over my bed hadn't stepped back. If anything, it leaned closer. The air around my face felt colder now, like the temperature had dropped 10 degrees in seconds. I could feel something hovering inches above me, not touching, just there, watching. And the worst part was that my eyes were open, fully open. I wasn't dreaming. The moonlight from the window still stretched across the wall. The dresser still stood in the corner. The hallway still framed the doorway. But now the doorway was filled with them. 4 shadows. 5 if you counted the one beside my bed. None of them moved. They just stood there, black silhouettes cut out of the darkness, absorbing every bit of light that touched them. My brain scrambled to make sense of it. Maybe this was a sleep paralysis after all, except I could still move. Slowly, carefully, I shifted my arm under the blanket. The mattress creaked. The shadow over my bed reacted instantly. Its head snapped downward, not violently, but fast enough to make my stomach drop. It had been studying me, watching every tiny movement. The whisper came again, not in my ear this time, inside my mind. You're not supposed to wake up. The statement wasn't threatening. It sounded more like a rule being explained, like something had gone wrong. The shadows in the doorway began to shift, not walking, sliding. Their shapes stretched and contracted like living darkness as they moved slowly into the room, one by one, quiet, silent, predatory. My pulse pounded harder. Every instinct screamed at me to move, to run, to scream. But something deep in my chest told me that doing any of those things would make this worse, much worse. The shadow standing beside my bed lowered its head closer to mine, so close that its darkness began to swallow the moonlight above my face. And then the whisper came again, this time softer, more curious. How long can you see us? My throat felt dry. What are you? The question slipped out before I could stop it. For the first time since I'd woken up, the shadows reacted. Every single one of them tilted their heads slightly, like animals hearing a strange sound. Then the one beside my bed answered, not with a voice, with a thought that slid coldly into my mind. We're the ones people see when the night gets too deep. The shadow in the doorway took another slow step forward, then another. Soon they were inside the room completely, 5 figures now standing in different corners, surrounding the bed, watching, studying, waiting. The one closest to me leaned even closer. The darkness around its head thickened like smoke gathering into a shape, and then it asked something that made the fear inside my chest turn into something much worse, something colder. Did you think the dark was empty? For a moment I didn't answer. because the question wasn't asked like a threat, it was asked like a genuine curiosity. Did you think the dark was empty? The thought echoed slowly through my mind, like ripples spreading across water. Around the bed, the shadows had completely filled the room now. 5 figures, one beside the bed, two near the dresser, one near the closet, and another standing just inside the doorway, blocking the hallway completely. None of them touched anything. Their shapes didn't disturb the carpet. They didn't breathe. They didn't blink, but I could feel their attention pressing down on me like weight. The one closest to my pillow lowered its head again, studying me. The darkness inside its outline continued to swirl slowly, like black smoke trapped inside glass. I swallowed. I didn't think anything was there. The moment the words left my mouth, something changed in the room, not movement, reaction. Every shadow tilted its head at the same time. 5 silent figures adjusting their posture in perfect synchronization. It was the kind of movement that instantly told you something was wrong. Humans don't move like that. Animals sometimes do. Predators especially. The thought returned again. That's what most of them believe. The shadow near the closet shifted slightly, its shape stretching taller against the wall. People sleep, they close their eyes. Another shadow near the dresser slowly slid forward a few inches. They never noticed. My pulse was hammering now. Notice what? I whispered. There was a pause, a long one. The shadows seemed to consider the question carefully. Then the one beside my bed answered, how full the night really is. The temperature in the room dropped again. My breath became visible in the faint moonlight. Across the room, the shadow near the doorway lifted one long arm and pointed slowly toward the hallway. For a second, I didn't understand why. Then I heard something, a faint sound from deeper in the house. Footsteps, soft, dragging slightly across the floor. My chest tightened because I lived alone. The footsteps continued slowly down the hallway, not toward my room, past it, moving somewhere deeper into the house, and none of the shadows reacted. None of them turned to look. It was like they already knew it was there. I stared toward the hallway, trying to see through the doorway past the shadow standing there. Did you hear that? The answer came immediately. Of course. My stomach twisted. What is it? Another long pause. The shadows shifted again, almost like they were listening. Then the one beside my bed leaned closer than ever before, so close that its darkness swallowed the moonlight across my face completely, and the thought slipped into my mind like ice. That's one of the things that noticed you woke up. The words sank into my mind slowly. One of the things that noticed you woke up. For a second, I forgot how to breathe. The footsteps in the hallway continued, slow, uneven, dragging slightly across the floorboards like someone walking barefoot and half asleep. Except the sound was wrong. Too slow, too deliberate, like something learning how to walk. My eyes stayed fixed on the doorway. The shadow standing there didn't move out of the way. It simply stood like a tall black wall between me and the rest of the house. The footsteps passed the door, then stopped, right outside. My chest tightened because I could feel it now. A presence in the hallway, not one of the shadows. Something heavier, something alive. The air in the room changed instantly. The 5 shadows around the bed reacted in the smallest possible way. They didn't run, they didn't vanish, but their shapes shifted slightly. Their heads turned toward the door. For the first time since I'd woken up, they looked uncertain. The whisper returned in my mind, quieter now. Stay still. My throat felt dry. What is it? I whispered. The shadow bed beside the bed answered immediately. Not one of us. The floor creaked in the hallway. One slow step, then another. The sound was right outside the doorway now. The shadow blocking the door slid sideways slightly as if making room not to let it in, to watch it pass. And then I saw it. At first, it looked like a normal human shadow moving across the hallway wall, except there was no body casting it, no light source behind it, just a shape sliding along the wall, darker than the darkness around it. It stopped at the edge of the doorway, half of it visible from my bed. The outline was wrong, too tall, too thin. Its arms hung far past where human arms should end, and its head bent sideways at an angle that no neck should allow. The thing didn't enter the room, it just stood there, watching, not me. The shadows, the 5 figures around my bed didn't move, but the one beside me whispered again. This time the thought carried something new, not curiosity, not calm observation, something closer to caution. It hunts the ones who wake up. My heart slammed harder. Why? The answer came instantly. Because if you see too much, you remember. The figure in the hallway shifted, its long arm lifted slowly, not toward me, toward the shadow standing in the doorway. The two shapes faced each other for a long moment, completely silent, completely still. Then something impossible happened. The darkness inside the hallway figure rippled violently, like ink exploding through water, and it stepped closer to the door. The shadow beside my bed whispered again, this time urgently, "Don't move." The thing in the hallway leaned forward, just enough that its head crossed into my room, and that's when I saw its face, or at least the place where a face should have been. Because inside that black silhouette, two faint gray shapes opened slowly, eyes, and they were staring directly at me. The moment those eyes opened, everything in the room changed. The shadows around my bed stopped moving completely, not shifting, not tilting their heads, nothing. It was the kind of stillness you only see in animals when a predator steps into view. The thing in the doorway leaned farther into the room, its long neck bending sideways at an unnatural angle. Those two faint gray eyes locked on mine. They didn't glow. They didn't shine. They just existed inside the darkness like pale holes punched into the night, watching, studying, remembering. My chest tightened so hard it felt like my ribs might crack. The shadow beside my bed whispered again in my mind, but this time the calm curiosity was gone. Now there was tension. Don't let it know you understand. I swallowed. My eyes stayed locked with the thing in the doorway, because something deep inside my brain had already realized the truth. It wasn't just looking at me, it was reading me, watching every tiny reaction, every flicker of fear. The figure slowly lifted one long arm, its fingers stretched out, thin and crooked like burnt branches. It pointed directly at my face. Then the whisper came, but not from the shadows, from it. The voice didn't enter my mind the way the others had. It slid through the air like a breath passing over ice. You woke up. The sound was thin, dry, like something that hadn't spoken in years. The shadows around my bed shifted slightly, not stepping forward, not attacking, just tightening their positions, like guards. The one beside my pillow answered before I could. Its thought cut sharply through my mind. This one sees. The gray eyes narrowed slightly, the long head tilted even farther sideways. Then the thing asked a question that made every nerve in my body light up with fear. How long? No one answered. The room stayed silent except for the slow ticking of the clock on my wall. Tick, tick, tick. The shadow beside my bed responded carefully, only tonight. Another pause. The creature in the doorway studied me again. Its eyes moved slowly across my face, then down toward my hands, then back up again, as if mirroring something, calculating. Then it spoke again, quieter this time, almost disappointed. Too early. The words hung in the air like frost. For the first time, the five shadows around my bed moved closer together, not toward me, toward the doorway, toward the Creator. My stomach twisted because I suddenly understood something terrifying. They weren't surrounding me, they were standing between me and it. The thing in the doorway slowly lowered its arm. Those gray eyes lingered on me for one last long moment. Then its voice slid across the room again. Then he must forget. The shadows around my bed reacted instantly. The one beside my pillow leaned down so close that its darkness covered my entire face. And the final thought entered my mind like falling snow. Cold, quiet, unavoidable. Close your eyes. For a moment I couldn't. My eyes were locked on the doorway, on the tall figure with the gray eyes still watching me. Something deep in my chest screamed that closing my eyes would be the worst mistake I could make, because the moment I couldn't see them, anything could happen. The shadow hovering over my bed repeated the thought, close them. Its presence was overwhelming now. The cold around my face had grown so intense it felt like ice forming in the air. Why? I whispered. The answer came instantly. Because it cannot take what you cannot remember. The Creator in the doorway shifted again. Its long fingers curled slowly inward, waiting, watching. My pulse pounded in my ears. The clock on the wall ticked louder and louder. Tick, tick, tick. The shadows around my bed moved closer together, tightening like a wall between me and the doorway. For the first time since I'd woken up, they looked tense, not afraid, but alert, like something dangerous had stepped into territory it wasn't supposed to enter. The gray-eyed figure leaned farther into the room, its neck bent sharply, lowering its head until those pale eyes were perfectly level with mine. You will forget, it whispered. The voice sounded dry, certain, like it had said those words thousands of times before. I finally did what the shadow beside my bed had told me. Slowly, reluctantly, I closed my eyes. The darkness behind my eyelids felt different from the darkness in the room, warmer, safer. But the sounds around me became louder, the slow tick of the clock, the faint hum of electricity in the walls, and something else, movement, soft, fluid, like shadows sliding across the floor. The Creator's voice spoke again, closer now. You saw. The words felt heavy in the air, but you will not keep it. The thought from the shadow beside my pillow cut through my mind again, sharper this time. Do not open your eyes. My breathing slowed. I kept them closed. Seconds passed, maybe minutes. I couldn't tell anymore. Then something strange happened. The temperature in the room began to rise again. Slowly, the cold receded. The air felt normal. The whispers in my head faded. The presence beside the bed drifted backward. And the voice in the doorway spoke one last time. Quiet, almost amused. We will see him again. Then silence returned to the room, real silence, the kind that belongs to an empty house. I lay there for what felt like a long time, not moving, not breathing too loudly. Eventually, I opened my eyes. The room looked exactly the way it had before. Moonlight across the floor, the dresser in the corner, the closet door half open, shadows, no figures, no gray eyes, just darkness, normal darkness. But as I stared toward the doorway, a single thought crawled slowly through my mind, one that made my stomach twist, because I couldn't remember exactly what had happened, not clearly. Only fragments remained, shapes, cold, whispers, and one strange feeling that refused to disappear. The feeling that something had been standing beside my bed for a very long time, watching me sleep. I didn't sleep again that night. I just lay there staring at the ceiling while the house slowly returned to normal. The refrigerator hummed again, a car passed somewhere outside, a dog barked in the distance. Ordinary sounds, the kind that should have made everything feel safe again, but they didn't, because something in my head felt wrong, like waking up after a dream you can't fully remember. You know something happened, something important, but every time you try to focus on it, the memory slides away like fog. I kept trying to piece it together, the hallway, the shadows, the whispering. Every time I reached for the details, my mind went blank, like someone had erased parts of the night. And the more I tried to remember, the stronger the headache behind my eyes became. Eventually, dawn started creeping through the blinds. The thin gray light filled the room slowly, pushing the darkness back into the corners. When the sun finally rose, I forced myself out of bed. My legs felt stiff, like I hadn't moved in hours. The hallway looked normal. No shadows standing there, no strange shapes, just the familiar stretch of carpet leading toward the living room. I walked through the house slowly. Kitchen, living room, bathroom, everything exactly where it should be. Nothing out of place, no footprints, no open doors, no signs that anything had happened at all. And yet the feeling remained, that strange weight in my chest, the sense that someone had been inside the house during the night, watching, waiting. I made coffee, hoping the routine would shake the feeling away. It didn't, because the more awake I became, the more I noticed small things, tiny details that didn't make sense. The first was the temperature. Even though the sun was up, parts of the house still felt cold. Not the whole house, just certain spots near the hallway, beside the bedroom door, and one place that made my stomach twist the moment I stepped near it, right beside my bed. The air there felt several degrees colder than anywhere else. I stood there for a long moment, staring at the carpet, trying to remember, trying to force the missing pieces back into place. That's when I noticed something on the wall. At first I thought it was just a trick of the morning light, a shadow from the window frame, but the shape was wrong. It didn't match anything in the room. Slowly, very slowly, I turned toward the wall beside the bed, and my breath caught in my throat, because there was a mark there. A dark smear stretching upward along the paint, roughly the shape of a hand, not a clear handprint, more like someone had pressed something made of soot against the wall and dragged it slightly downward. 5 long streaks, too long, too thin, and the darkest part of the smear was right above my pillow, exactly where something would have been leaning over my face. My stomach twisted as the memory tried to push through the fog in my mind. Cold, whispers, the feeling of something standing inches away from me. Then another thought surfaced slowly, one sentence that made my chest tighten again. I didn't remember everything from the night, but I remembered enough to know one thing. They hadn't been the only ones in the house. I stood there staring at the mark on the wall for a long time. The morning sun had fully risen now, filling the room with pale gold light, the kind of light that usually makes everything feel ordinary again. But that hand-shaped smear didn't look ordinary. It looked wrong. The streaks were too long, too thin, and they curved slightly downward, like something with unnaturally long fingers had dragged them slowly across the point. I reached out without thinking. My fingers hovered just inches away from the wall. Part of me expected the mark to disappear the closer I looked. Maybe it was just dirt, maybe a trick of the light, but it didn't vanish. The smear remained exactly where it was. My fingers finally touched it. Cold, not wet, not sticky, just cold. Colder than the wall should have been. I rubbed my thumb against it. Black dust flaked lightly onto my skin like ash. My stomach tightened because the mark wasn't old. It hadn't been there yesterday. I would have noticed. I stepped back slowly, wiping the black dust onto my jeans, and that's when I realized something else. The mark wasn't alone. There were others, fainter ones, barely visible in the morning light, long streaks stretching across the wall above the bed, near the ceiling, near the corner, as if something had been moving around the room during the night, touching the walls, sliding along them, watching. The memory fog in my mind shifted again, small fragments trying to break through, dark shapes, whispers, gray eyes, but every time the images started to become clear, the same pressure built behind my temples, like something in my brain was pushing the memories back down, forcing them away. I stepped into the hallway again. The house looked completely normal, but the cold spots were still there. One just outside the bedroom, another near the living room wall, and then I saw the third one at the far end of the hallway, near the front door. I walked slowly toward it. Each step felt heavier than the last. The cold grew stronger the closer I got. By the time I reached the door, the air felt like stepping into a freezer. And that's when I noticed the lock. The deadbolt was still turned, still locked from the inside, which meant no one had entered the house during the night. At least not through the door. I turned slowly and looked back down the hallway toward my bedroom. Morning light filled the space now, every corner visible, every shadow gone, but a strange thought settled into my mind, one that made the back of my neck prickle again. The shadows hadn't been visitors, they had already been inside the house, and judging by the marks on the wall, they hadn't been there long before I woke up. The rest of the day passed in a haze. Every sound felt amplified. Floorboards creaking under my own steps, the refrigerator humming, the distant cars on the street. Each ordinary noise set my nerves on edge, because I knew it wasn't the sound itself that unsettled me. It was the memory of the night creeping through my mind in pieces, the shadows, the cold, the whispers, and most of all, the eyes. Those gray, empty eyes staring directly at me, reading every reaction. I tried to tell myself it was over. Morning had come, the sun was up, the shadows were gone, the house was normal, but every so often I'd glance at the hallway, and something in me knew that normal was just an illusion. That night had changed the house, changed me. Later, I found myself pacing the living room, staring at the ceiling, trying to piece together what had happened. I realized something terrifying. The shadows hadn't been just in my room. They had watched the whole house, every hallway, every corner, every inch of the walls, and they weren't gone. Not really. I could feel it in the air, the same way you feel static before a storm. Something waiting, watching, patient. I thought about the marks on the wall, the fainter smears, the long, thin streaks that shouldn't have existed. And then it hit me. Those weren't just traces of their presence. They were warnings, not for me, for whoever wakes up in this house next, or whoever dares to see them. Because the shadow people, they don't just watch, they wait for the ones who notice, for the ones who remember, for the ones who wake. And if you do, you never truly forget. Not the cold, not the whispers, not the eyes, not the feeling of being surrounded by a darkness that isn't yours. Night came again, though I didn't sleep. I stayed awake, sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at the moonlight stretching across the floor. Every sound made me flinch. Every shadow in the corners of the room seemed thicker than before. I knew they were still there. The shadow beside my bed from last night, it wasn't gone. I couldn't see it clearly in the moonlight, but the cold creeping along my arms and legs told me it was there. The hallway seemed darker than it should be, deeper, thicker, and I remembered something, a fragment of the whisper, "We will see him again." It wasn't a threat, it wasn't a promise, it was certainty, a fact carved into the night itself. I realized then what the shadows wanted, not to harm me, not to scare me away. They wanted acknowledgement, to be seen, to be remembered. And that was why they let me wake up. Because waking means you notice, and noticing is dangerous. I could still feel them around me, watching, studying, waiting. The cold seeped deeper now. The whispers came again, soft and fleeting, impossible to catch, almost teasing. Most people never see us. You saw. You will remember. And in that moment, I understood no matter how hard I tried, the memory would always linger. Fragments in my mind, the smear on the wall, the gray eyes, the long fingers, the whispers sliding into my thoughts. Even in the daylight, even in the warmth, even with the normalcy of life, I could feel them. The shadow people of the early accounts, always watching, always waiting. Because once you have seen them, the night is never empty again. And the last thought that hit me before I closed my eyes, exhausted and trembling, was this: they're already here.